could be any street, any town, USA. Wherever you are, you're probably part of a certain old-fashioned, homebred spirit of, well, do you mind an old-fashioned word? Let's call it neighborliness. Helping one another, sharing the load, and not minding a bit. He's a pretty good egg, this guy next door. It's a spirit demonstrated in dozens of different ways, either casually or by design. It can range from sharing the daily carpool to sharing the latest news over a clothesline. There's nothing new, of course, about this attitude. This nation was practically built by this neighborly feeling. If you look back to earlier days, you'll find the common need for protection and men acknowledging a common bond with each other in providing it. Was a young lady getting married? The cozy quilting bee started off her trousseau. A man didn't have to build his own house. Often his friends organized a roof-raising party. The classic conception of help thy neighbor was the volunteer fire department. The westward push was a group effort. The lone covered wagon would seldom make it. And so it is today, as we work together for a common cause, for a common good. Helping others is almost a natural instinct. Oh, I beg your pardon. There's been an interruption. But in today's world, we live with a continuing possibility of such interruptions as we contemplate the shape of Muscus agaricus, or poisonous mushroom. It is an ominous fact that man's knowledge allows him to obliterate his very civilization if he chooses. Modern science has provided bombers which can span continents and oceans. Guided missiles are expected to fly at supersonic speeds. Bombers can deliver the H-bomb. Missiles may have H-bomb warheads. Can the defense always stop them, as in this test? A few words about the bomb now. The A-bomb, which did this to Hiroshima, is now a mere firecracker in today's lineup of thermonuclear pyrotechnics. The explosive power delivered by all bombs dropped by U.S. planes in World War II did not equal that released by the recent test explosion of an H-bomb. How much heat does an H-bomb produce? The temperature on the surface of the fireball is as great as that generated on the surface of the sun. Small wonder, then, that an H-bomb can virtually destroy everything within a radius of 3 miles from blast center. The blast alone is capable of gouging out a hole a mile across and 175 feet deep. What does all this have to do with neighborliness, you ask? The answer is not yet obvious to enough people. The grim truth is that more than ever before in history, we must learn to help each other in the most ultimate of all objectives, survival. Key to this is civil defense. If sudden nuclear warfare should hit America, people will have to take care of themselves. The military would have a war to fight. National survival will depend on local action now, on communities training and working together. How does the community go about building an effective civil defense? It begins first on the national level in Battle Creek, Michigan, where the Federal Civil Defense Administration has established national headquarters directed by Vadel Peterson. From here stems the overall coordination and guidance for civil defense units all over America. State and local operations are integrated in a national team effort and tied in with military action. Stockpiling of supplies and equipment and the designation of critical target areas are also a federal responsibility. So let's examine a typical target city. Reading, Pennsylvania. Reading is really no different from dozens of other communities which weave business, industry, and livability into the accustomed tapestry of the American scene. We find the same hopes, objectives, and activities that are worth preserving and protecting. And in the county courthouse is the nerve center that stimulates all efforts in this direction, the Berks County Civil Defense Headquarters. Each local civil defense unit is set up by civic leaders with a steering committee to direct its activities. The executive director, Mrs. Marguerite Osman, and her secretary are its only full-time paid members among a force of 8,000 volunteers in the unit. Volunteer is the key word in this. You give of yourself and your time to the common cause. Since the program depends upon the degree of success in signing up volunteers, it is important to put the CD message before as many people as possible. The campaign must be widespread and hard-hitting. Appeals can be made by newspaper cooperation, by radio and television interviews, and by extensive poster and billboard display. If volunteers have particular skills, such as nursing or medical knowledge, typing or mechanical ability, it is recorded on his application. There is a job, however, for everyone in CD, and everyone can mean housewife, auto mechanic, banker, or young junior league matron. There's nobody who doesn't have a stake in survival, and it takes a lot of varied skills to guarantee it. But since most volunteers have to be prepared for their jobs, the biggest part of any CD unit is the training program. Berks County is typical of CD organizations all over the nation. They take it seriously. Supervised by the Red Cross and Berks County Medical Society, a class in first aid is taught the techniques needed in time of disaster. Here they set splints on a fracture. The unit's goal, at least 3,000 trained first aiders in an area of 100,000 people. This is the firing range at the Reading Pistol Club. The activity, training civil defense volunteers for auxiliary police. The instructor, an ex-police officer. When these men finish their complete course, they'll be capable of guarding power plants, bridges, water supplies, and other facilities necessary for the common good. They will also help control traffic and check possible panic. In short, these are the men who, during a morale-shattering emergency, will have a strong stabilizing effect on a jittery populace. Though in the minds of most people, civil defense brings thought of the bomb, volunteers also may be used for disasters due to cyclones, floods, or other wayward fits of nature. Readiness for any need is a dominant theme. Rescue trucks have special equipment for any emergency, and volunteers are trained in light and heavy rescue duty. On the outskirts of Reading, a special house is used for rescue drills. Mounting walls and removing injured personnel from upper floors of bombed houses would be a vital part of any rescue team's work. To show their enthusiasm, as well as preparing for any eventuality, the Berks County people have even trained rescue teams made up solely of women. A gas mask drill takes them into a house full of smoke to find the injured. Statistics prove that more civilians were killed in cities by fire in World War II than in any other way. CD firefighters, therefore, drill at special pits to learn how to smother various types of flames. This is an oil fire. This is basically wood. This is chemical. Here now is an illustration of fallout from a nuclear blast following a surface burst. Debris churned up and sucked into the air becomes radioactive. It will settle to the earth in patterns governed by wind currents, scattering a dangerous and often lethal residue over everything it touches. A blast over Washington, for instance, could set up a fallout pattern almost to New York. If you were not sheltered, a heavy enough radiation dosage could bring sickness or death. An important device to detect radiated residue is the Geiger counter. The closer it gets to contaminated material, the more violent its telltale clicking. Now here is the bell and light warning signal, probably the most important installation in the city in case of attack. In this case, the warning is received from the 26th Air Defense Division on Long Island, the FDCA Warning Center for this part of the East Coast. Lights flash the different warnings: attack probable, attack imminent, all clear. These signals are not only received here in CD headquarters, but at 15 other points in the county, any one of which can alert local CD units and set off local sirens. Such points are the Reading Fire Department, 3 hospitals in Reading, the Board of Education, and the House of Good Shepherd. But any warning attack must be followed by alerting other points. Volunteers are trained by telephone company officials to handle a battery of phones at CD headquarters, which would be staffed around the clock. Within minutes after a general alarm, operators will be on the job contacting 75 call points throughout the county, alerting them to the danger so they can mobilize their forces. If all phones are knocked out, Berks County has a backstop. This fully equipped truck, donated by local manufacturers, can take over all vital message service. Radio contact can be established from this mobile unit to police cars, fire engines, and taxis. It can also contact any of 35 private CD autos owned by amateur radio operators who can be pressed into the information setup. There is virtually no end to providing answers to the most urgent needs of communication. The Pagoda Motorcycle Club has enrolled many of its members as special CD couriers who will be able to go where no other vehicles can manage. They will also serve as auxiliary police or escorts for medical convoys. And where a cycle can't go, a horse and rider can. A survey of privately owned horses has been made, and more than 100 have been registered as available for emergency CD use. Another important survey deals with mass care centers. Surviving homeless must be taken care of somewhere. Any public building, church, or warehouse still standing will be pressed into use, and CD officials must know what facilities they have. Chief concern of mass care is feeding. With the flow of normal food supplies cut off, a careful marshaling of existing stocks is absolutely imperative. A nutrition council made up of dietitians from Albright College, the Reading School District, industry, and hospitals has already determined the type and amount of food necessary for various periods of emergency. Local doctors and nutritionists have also worked out a food survival kit, providing basic needs for one person for several days. Here now is an example of how a CD unit executes a gigantic exercise in survival. Inside these trucks are components of a 200-bed civil defense emergency hospital. The problem? To assemble at a predetermined location, because city hospitals have been bombed out. Here it will be the basement of the county home. 3 trained professionals plus 30 volunteers can set up the complete hospital in 4 hours. Swiftly, smoothly, with ordered intelligence and planning, the elements of a complete hospital flow into position and readiness. Everything in its place for instant use, including all departments, reception and sorting, central supplies, along with X-ray, surgery, pharmacy, and laboratory. It will all be there if they ever need it. And now it's done, right on the nose, in 4 hours. You see it here as direct evidence of how any American community can easily Again, the interruption, the kind that will always be possible in an uneasy world. But I was about to say, something can be done about the H-bomb. All is not lost. Survival is possible, but only if you and your neighbor are willing to help each other. They're ready here. You can be ready too. Be alert today, alive tomorrow.